Bingo.
The main monster of these episodes are the gangers, which is a brilliant creation. Stephen and Matthew wanted to do a story about identity theft, and so they literally took the idea that what would happen if somebody stole your identity wholesale, if there was another you. And I think that's just such a brilliant take on a modern story.
What is that? Those gangers are pretty scary looking. I know they're all nice, and just trying to fight for their right to live. But the prosthetics were brilliant. They look like big gloopy eyeballs, which is not a good look for people. It's good for eyes, not for people.
I think that's my favourite prosthetic actually so far. Just it's this horrible like China doll like skin. It's sort of a little bit transparent. It's horrible.
There are a small group of workers. They mine the acid. The acid is very, very dangerous. So what they use to mine it is something called the flesh.
And there you are.
Meet the government's worst-kept secret, the flesh.
Which is this gloopy stuff that you can put an electric current through and make it replicate a person.
It's fully programmable matter.
All their memories, their personality, their physical appearance, everything, and create something called a ganger.
So now we mine the acid using these doppelgangers, or gangers. These bodies get burnt or fall in the acid.
And who the hell cares, right, Jen? Stephen had this very strong idea about avatars.
And everything's identical. Eyes, voice.
Mind, soul.
But avatars that were rebelling against their human operators.
Hello. How are you all getting on?
Why don't you tell us?
Well, we have two choices. The first is to tear each other apart, not my favourite. The second is to knuckle down and work together. Try to work out how best we can help you.
When I was talking to Matt, I was saying I wanted these creatures called the Flesh for various plot-related reasons in the series. And we very quickly got enthused about the idea, OK, the Flesh duplicates, what if they just think, well, you know, I've got an equal right to all your memories now that I've got them.
I tried to block the memories, but now I know I must remember.
The only other thing he had was eyeball matter. He said, I'd really like them to be made out of eyeball mush.
Designing the gangers, it was tricky because you're trying to do something that's formless and everyone sort of thinks they know what they want, but when you actually start trying to imagine that and realise that, it's quite difficult. And also you've got to keep the character of the actor beneath it. So it's, you know, we looked at various ways of kind of giving this translucent look, this very formless, featureless look. And we worked through a series of designs and eventually we hit on the thing that everyone felt was, you know, the most appropriate look. Something that's just a picture and a design still has to be translated into a three-dimensional thing. So before we got into doing the prosthetics for the actors, we did a test on one of our crew first, just to kind of really work out how it's going to look, because it is just an unusual kind of makeup, you know.
Everyone looks brilliant in the prosthetics, and it really makes you get into the whole character and real feel of it.
It's really cool seeing the guys in prosthetics as the Flesh. That looks really, really good.
A head cast is basically effectively gives us the actor's face to work on all the time. I mean, you couldn't have an actor sat there with you for several weeks while you make the prosthetics model. So what we do is take a mould of their face, and we literally cover their entire head with this rubber material, just leaving little holes so they can breathe through the nose. Then we back that up with plaster bandage to give it a bit of a harder shell to keep the structure. And once we take that off the actor, we put that back together, fill it up with plaster, and we get basically a perfect reproduction of their head, which we can then design and model on.
Just go gently, mate. Just pull back gently. At your pace, go on nice and slowly. Lovely. Lovely.
Keep your eyes shut for a sec. Just give me a quick breath.
Nice.
All right?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Excellent.
If you look in, you can see a negativity.
Yeah, got a big
That's
nose.
good. That's great.
Excellent.
Marvellous.
That's okay.
One nose in your eyes.
Yep.
Brilliant.
This is sort of my first sci-fi thing, really, I think. I mean, you could sort of call Life on Mars or Ashes to Ashes a sci-fi concept, but this is sort of real sci-fi, you know, with prosthetics and the eyes and just being able to have fun and that sort of thing.
This is the first process of making the prosthetic. It'll turn into a ganger, so it's quite simple, and it just smooths out all their features. It turns them into a doppelganger, I suppose. First stage is a CGI effect when they're just a gelatinous mass. They then start to turn themselves into people, or what look like people, and this is the second stage when they're obviously human. They look human, but they're still in the process of forming, so features haven't quite developed properly yet.
That's it, good. You remember. This is early flesh, the early stages of the technology. So much to learn.
Gangers are all veiny, so part of the process of doing it is we're putting the veins on underneath the appliance. So you can see this one here, you can see the veins are buried deep within the silicone. And that's what I'm doing here. So that when after we've applied it, we'll do another layer of veins painted on the top, and this gives depth to the appliance and makes it look more skin-like and makes them look translucent, which is what they're supposed to be.
The ganger faces are made from a silicon gel, which is a very soft, squidgy, flesh-like material.
So if you were to breathe, just breathe through your nose, just for a short while.
And it really allows the face to move, is very soft and malleable, but it's also very translucent, so we can make it look like skin by adding colours to it, but also in the case of the gangers, we actually wanted it to look like a jelly. So we just only put a bit of white coloration in there, and it really has the light kind of transmits through it and really gives the feeling of a wet, mushy surface.
I don't think Rory and Amy realise how dangerous the flesh is when they first see it. I think they are a bit freaked out by it.
So, your flesh now?
I'm lying in a harness back in that chamber. We all are, except Jennifer here. Don't be scared. This thing, just like operating a forklift truck.
It's weird, but you get used to it.
And it's the doctor's reaction to it which sets the alarm bells off. Because he's obviously quite wary of it. You kind of know that he knows something about it. But yeah, it is pretty freaky.
The flesh is horrible. I guess because it can sort of just happen to a normal person, and then you can get turned into this evil monster. So that's, you can sort of relate to it in that way. I don't know. Yeah, and it's just physically quite disgusting.
Let it go.
With the prosthetics, because all the edges where it blends in the skin is all really fine and delicate, when you actually take the makeup off at the end of the day, it all gets ruined, it gets damaged. So the prosthetic piece is now completely useless. So we have to have a new prosthetic for every day of filming. If you're filming for 10 days, you've got to manufacture 10 of these prosthetics, make them all look perfectly the same. And if you've got 5 people in the cast, that can end up being 50 prosthetic pieces being made just for 1 week of filming. Application of the prosthetics, we normally try and keep it to no more than 2 hours, just because you start doing more than 2 hours, you get into turnaround time problems and the amount of time you have for a shooting day.
This is the final part of the process, is we get our eyes in.
Yeah, look straight ahead, please. That's fantastic. Look up slightly, man. That's great. That's straight ahead again. That's great.
Yeah, well, you can try some IPA.
From nice to nasty, one feels sweet.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. It is amazing. Fantastic. It's a fantastic job. He's did a great job in picking them.
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
I need you next.
Oh, do you?
To do touch-ups around the eye.
No rest for the monsters.
Okay.
I think they are very interesting characters, the gangers. I think they're still finding out what they are.
This is... You're telling me?
As the doctor says at one point, I think they're scared and they're frightened and that they're new to all this, you know, because they've become severed from their controllers. So, yeah, I think they're probably frightened, and so, I mean, sometimes when you're frightened and scared and you don't know what's going on around you, you get a little bit defensive, and you know, so that's, I don't think they're out-and-out terrorists, you know, but I think they're kind of reacting to the circumstances and the situation they find themselves in.
We can reach out, inspire them to rise up.
Revolution. Look, I just want to be left to live in peace, Jen. They're newborn, basically. Even though they're born with all these memories and with all this life and with all this experience that's been poured into their brain, they are the innocent children with all the potential to be as good or as bad as any human being is.
Don't you remember all the times you were decommissioned? Or should I say executed?
No, we don't remember.
We've given them life with our feelings, our emotions. Now they realise that that's going to be taken away. Whereas like, us people, we take things for granted, what we have, our life, our health, whereas they know how precious it is. So I think they're willing to probably fight for it more maybe than the human versions of ourselves.
Why? Why should we suffer for the sake of human beings?
They're just trying to protect themselves and each other, and you know, they think of the humans as the enemy.
It's us or them.
She's right.
The gangers, although they have the potential to go rah and not hold back and actually turn to flesh and look horrific, they're actually purer human beings than any one of us is now.
I have a plan. And it'll destroy them all.
Just that freakiness of seeing yourself being created in front of you. I think it's a great monster for Doctor Who.